What's going on with you music producers? My name is Curtis King, an FL Studio power user, and I just realized I've never made a video kind of explaining what that means and what the process looked like, and then also too, just my particular journey and hopefully some words of encouragement to you if you have aspirations to become a power user or just to achieve anything. I think you can learn a lot from my particular story. Let's talk about it. Okay, music producers, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for clicking on this video. Obviously, we're going to be talking about FL Studio power users and what it is, how I became one, and my particular story, which is probably very unique from most of the power users on the list. But I want to explain all of that in hopes that it can give you some encouragement and also just a little bit of insight if this is something that you aspire to be. Now, first and foremost, what is an FL Studio power user? FL Studio is owned by a company, a Belgium-based company called ImageLine. Most of you should already know that, especially if you're an FL Studio user. This company basically hand selects users, DJs, artists, producers that not only have a significant following, but also folks who are users of FL Studio. So there's tons of recognizable names. I'm actually gonna read it off my phone right now. Murder Beats, TM88, Boy Wonder, Ninth Wonder, Wonder Girls, a lot of wonders going on. T-Minus, the YouTube homies like Chucky Beats, In the Mix, Simon Servita, and obviously the GOAT, Lex Luger. When I first even heard of this list existing, it was something that definitely was on my radar and something that I was hoping to aspire to become one day. I must have not been trying that hard because at the time that I was aspiring to do that, I did not have a legit copy of FL Studio. And because of that decision, it actually put me in a very vulnerable place when I received an email. There was a video that I released April 14th, 2018. I shall never forget that day. That video was me basically disclosing a private conversation that I had with ImageLine that could have turned into a really ugly legal situation had I not handled it the right way. Thankfully, I handled it the right way, and thankfully, they were not only open to further dialogue, but we've had contests and things that we've done together over time. But even then, I still wasn't thinking there was a possibility that I would be added to an elite list of producers that are professional FL Studio users. I, to be honest with you, thought it was like folks who were FL Studio brainiacs. Like they understood every angle, every crevice, every single inch of FL Studio. And I'll admit it, there are so many things about FL Studio, I mean just music in general and digital audio workstations in general, that I'm still learning on a daily basis, even being 20 years into this. And so I didn't know sort of what the criteria was. So I remember actually searching for it, and here's what I came across. It's a knowledge-based article, which basically someone asked from the community, said, how can I become a power user? And it says, we are pleased to hear from you about our professional FL Studio user base, is how they define it. To be considered by our artist relations team, you must already have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or similar social media profile with more than 200,000 followers or have some other outstanding credit to your name. However, please understand that meeting these numbers does not automatically mean you will be accepted into the program. And I said to apply, please let us know your ImageLine account details and ImageLine account details through support ticketing. I for sure thought that was a long shot for myself, not because I don't know my stuff in FL Studio. I'm very confident about my knowledge in FL Studio. You can go back to my channel and see literally hundreds of videos dedicated to my understanding of FL Studio. But after that whole debacle and that situation happened with that video, and now that video is sitting at like 1 million something views, I was like, there's not a chance in hell I'm gonna be a power user. I just am grateful to be a user, right? A legit user. That was where my mindset was at. So I got to the point where I started working and not even looking at that as a goal. I started looking past that as a goal. Not that it wasn't a worthy goal, but my mind was going past the goal. And when I went past the goal, it's changed my mindset into, okay, let's just create content that discloses the things that you're learning, one, as a sound designer using FL Studio, that also maximizes the usage usage of the stock plugins. And so I did all of that, made all of this video content, continued to produce it, made my normal inspirational content for music producers, and little did I know, nearly 2 years later, dead smack in the middle of a pandemic, I receive an email from a representative over at ImageLine that says, I wanted to reach out to ask if you were interested in being featured on our Power User page. I'm updating the page at the moment and would love to have you on there. Blew my mind. That happened in August, and it took a little time. Basically, they sent me a questionnaire of things to answer, the same questions that you see most of the Power users on there answer, but really just wanted to kind of know how I got started with FL Studio. What are some things that I like about using FL Studio aside from all the other DAWs? And I answered the questions, and next thing I know, I have an article up, and it's sitting up there in sort of the Hall of Fame of FL Studio users. But I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that situation, one, is that there's always another opportunity for you to redefine yourself, and also to redefine what other people have labeled you with or what your past has been. There's always another opportunity. That's one. Two, I also learned the power of the internet, and I learned the power of just putting your head down and grinding. Everybody makes mistakes, but your current situation doesn't have to be your future identity. And I think in moving forward and seeing this situation flip the way it did, and it's something that really got me into a place where it made me more empathetic for not just other music producers and the things that they want to go after, but also the developers. Now look at me, years later, you know, I'm part of a plugin developing team that has multiple plugins out. It's something that I have such a great respect for because of my experience and the situations that have happened with FL Studio and ImageLine. I'm forever grateful and indebted to the good folks at ImageLine for giving a producer like myself the opportunity to be showcased amongst many elite FL Studio users. I look at all of this situation, and this is my message for you. I think it's really about working like nobody's looking. I think it's about having a respect for yourself, having a respect for this program, and that you realize you don't need thousands and thousands of dollars of plugins and VSTs to maximize what you have. There's so much, and not to mention the updates and everything that are coming out. There is so much that is sitting there that to this day I still don't understand, and I'm still learning my way through it. But if I, as a power user, as somebody who has great experience in it, has been using FL Studio now for many years, it should be really telling to know that there's always something new to learn. And please believe, over the years, there's been other DAWs that have reached out to me about doing video content and learning there. Not for me. FL Studio is the one for me. I feel like if you're someone that is a supremely visual learner and someone that kind of finds excitement in what you visually see, I feel like FL Studio is the one for you. There's some that are more for the analytical music makers, or the ones that are thinking with the other side of the brain. But for those of us that are visual, for those of us that are about the sleek animations and all that, FL Studio is the one. And I'm proud to be an FL Studio member, FL Gang to the end. And I'm grateful to be in this power user position. It is something that I wear proudly. And as I continue to make more and more content, I'm dedicated to learning more and more about it. So that's my power user story. It's so crazy, all the different valleys and peaks and this roller coaster ride that it's been. But I can say this for certain. I love the program that I use. It makes making music so easy. And it's something that I'm so grateful to teach so many different music producers through my courses and through this channel. And then lastly, I just got to make sure I say a heartfelt thank you to ImageLine and FL Studio just for the opportunity to represent the brand. That's it. That's my FL Studio power user story. I got to make sure that I shout out those of you that are already been subscribed to this channel. If it wasn't for you, who knows where this content would have gone and whose radar it would have been on. So I got to say thank you as well to y'all for supporting this channel, for asking such great questions and allowing me to be the teacher of some of your FL Studio information. I appreciate you. If you got any questions, please leave it in the comments below. In this life, if you want to be full of life, you must live life to its absolute fullest. My name is Curtis King of Curtis King TV. Have a good one. Peace. Look up, Nazi. Say cheese.